So, we have looked at the strong form. Now, we are going to look at the weak form of the problem. Unsteady heat conduction equation. So, the first thing that we should discuss is the function spaces. If you remember, the method of weighted residual says that the weighted residual should be 0 in an integrated sense. So, there is no reason for the weights in general to be unsteady. So, W's, the weight functions, they are still going to come from a space that has functions which are not time dependent. So, let me write that down. So, V is the variational space which gives us the weight functions, and it consists of W's and they are not time dependent. We can construct methods where W's are also time dependent, but as far as the analysis here is concerned, we are going to be happy with steady weight functions. Similarly, let S be the solution space. And in fact, what we will say is that the solution space consists of these functions u, but u's are time dependent. So, if you remember, they depend on x and t. In contrast, w depend only on x. So, because u depend on space and time, so I will put a subscript here as st. But let me just say that we will use this interchangeably. S is the solution space, and we are just saying that the functions are going to be now unsteady. So, this is very interesting. Two function spaces, V consists of steady functions, and of course, the solution is unsteady. So, the solution is unsteady for two reasons. A, the temperature field itself is unsteady, okay, and the other is, remember, the boundary conditions. The boundary conditions could also be unsteady. So, G could be function of time, H could be function of time, and so on. So, so let me just write down that components of S t vary with time, but the ones for V, they do not. So, let us write down S t, or if you want to call it as S, it does not matter. So, these consist of functions u, which are of course time dependent, such that these functions, they belong to a certain smoothness property. So, let me say these are H1, and they also have these properties that they are going to be G of t on gamma g. Of course, gamma g is not a function of time. So, gamma g we have assumed is steady, it does not change with time. So, this is as far as u is concerned. If I had to write V, then V consists of functions W, which are only functions of space, and I will assume that these are also H1. W at the boundary are actually going to be 0 on the Dirichlet part of the boundary. So, please notice the framework fits in very well, because the weight functions are supposed to vanish, they are supposed to satisfy the homogeneous boundary condition which my u is satisfying. So, it kind of fits very nicely, I do not need to have w's as time dependent. Okay, so, this is the framework now. So, just to review for you, when we want to write down the weak form, we will need two functions, the variational space which is these w's, the solution space which are these u's, and I have listed both of them now. So, now we are ready to write down the weak form. So, it is going to be given like this. So, given f, g, h and u0 as we have defined before, I am not going to bore you by rewriting it. I am now supposed to find the temperature field u which depends on x and t, and that of course belongs to the space St, and of course t belongs to the space 0 to t, such that for all w's that come from this variation space V, I should satisfy the following weak form, and I am going to just write it down in the compact notation. So, this is rho c u dot plus A of W u, this is the inner product of W and F plus W times H on the boundary gamma, and I will also write down the initial condition. If you remember, in the strong form we will also put it in a weak form. So, I will take the initial condition and multiply that with the weight function and integrate over the whole domain. So, that would give me the following: W times rho c u at time 0, this should be equal to W times rho times c, and of course, the initial condition itself which is u 0. So, this constitutes my weak form. Okay. So, let me remind you that the dot corresponds to u comma t, which actually is del u by del t that we had already talked about. So, this is one note. The other is that as far as the initial condition is concerned, we have integrated it. So, if you recall, in the strong form the condition was that u at a location x and at time t equal to 0 is given as u naught at the location x. What we have done is we have integrated this. So, we have multiplied with this w times u and integrated this over the entire domain omega with of course a rho times c, and put this as rho times c u naught d omega. So, this now becomes dimensionally closer to the weak form. Okay. We could have left the initial condition as is, but we have also constituted a weak form of the initial condition in the manner that I have shown you. Okay. So, there is a strong form of the problem, the unsteady heat conduction equation, and this is the weak form, and we can show that the strong form and the weak form are equivalent. The proof would follow exactly what we have done before for the steady state equations. There is hardly any difference, and you can please try to do that yourself and convince yourself that this can be done. This brings us next to the Galerkin form. Now this is going to be interesting. If you remember, so far what we have done is the weak form and the strong form are equivalent. Okay, so there is really no difference, they are synonymous. Now when we want to approximate, we have two options. Either we can approximate the strong form, and as we commented before, methods like the finite difference method or the collocation method, they start from the strong form and make interpolation approximations at the strong form level. Methods like finite volume, finite elements, they actually start from the weak form, and instead of taking spaces that are infinite dimensional, so if you recollect, these are the spaces that we have defined, V and S, these are infinite dimensional, okay? They contain all kinds of functions. Now when I want to write down the approximation, I can relax this a little bit and only look at finite dimensional spaces. We saw examples of that with the using linear finite elements or bilinear in 2D and trilinear in 3D. Then we also looked at higher order shape functions and so on. So those are approximations to the infinite dimensional spaces. So we will do that. So in the Galerkin form, we are going to construct finite dimensional spaces. So that is one thing. The other is we now have to use the same function space for the solution and the weight function, and that is going to be a challenge here, because we have assumed that the weight functions come from a steady space, a solution space which is not time dependent, and the solutions of course are time dependent. So it is going to be a little bit interesting how we go ahead with this. So we first define VH, which actually is a subset of V. So VH is the finite dimensional approximation to V. Okay. So this consists of functions which are not time dependent. These are functions which depend only on space. Okay. Next, we are going to split UH as a function of, so UH are function of x and t. We are going to now split this as VH as a function of x and t plus GH as a function of x and t. So we will do the same trick that we did for the steady state finite elements, that the boundary part would be separated from the V part, and this of course would now satisfy the homogeneous Dirichlet boundary condition. So that aspect we will take care of. As far as the time dependent is concerned, we will pick a VH of x from VH at a certain time instant. So here is the analogy that I want to give you. Suppose I have a time dependent function, a signal. Okay. So I have, let us say, function f which depends on x and t. What I can do is, and let us say my x varies from 0 to 1, and I could say this is my function, let us say function of x but at time t equal to t1. I could draw this function maybe at another time, maybe this is the same function of x but at time t2, and likewise I could have different variations of these functions at different times. And suppose I wanted to approximate this entire function using Fourier series. what I could do is, I would say, well, let me take function at time t equal to t1. So, it becomes a spatial function, and let me now approximate this using the Fourier series. Then I take another time instant and I do exactly the same thing. So, in principle what I am saying is that this function f, I am representing it like this. At each time instant I am writing it as summation a n cosine omega n t plus b n sine omega n t, and my n goes from 1 to capital N. I am sorry, these are x. So, I am representing my function in terms of these frequencies, and my coefficients a n and b n now can be determined at each time instant. So, what I would like to now say is that a n is a function of time, b n is a function of time, and these of course are functions of x. Okay. So, what I have done is that a time dependent function at each time instant can have a certain set of coefficients. At another time instant it has yet another set of coefficients. So, the function itself is written in terms of these eigen functions cosine omega n x and sine omega n x, but the coefficients a n and b n, they depend on time. Okay. So, we are going to do a similar thing over here. We are going to say that let Vh, of course it is time dependent, but we will go to a certain time instant and pick a function from this V for that time instant. When we go to another time instant, we will pick another function and so on. So, that is the trick that we will use. Okay. Okay, so with this in mind, let us write down the Galerkin form now. So, it goes like this: given f g h and u naught, I am supposed to find a UH which is VH plus GH, and UH of course as a function of x and t belongs to S H, and it is time dependent such that for all my WHs that belong to VH, I satisfy the following. So, I am going to take the weak form and substitute in it this decomposition. So, the quantities that depend on VH, they will stay on the left, and all the quantities that depend on G, I will transfer them to the right. So, it would look something like this: WH times rho C, and this would be VH dot plus A of WH times VH. This would be given as the inner product of WH comma F plus I would have WH comma H on gamma, and then of course the two terms that result from the GH in these two. So, the first one would be minus WH times rho C G dot H, and the second term would be A of WH G dot H. Sorry, this is not a dot, this is coming simply from this term. So, that is as far as the heat equation is concerned. I will have to now write down the weak form for the boundary condition, sorry, the initial condition as well, and that would look something like this. So, WH times rho C VH 0, this is going to be given as WH times rho c, which is our u0, which is given to us, the field, minus WH times rho c g of h at 0, where this 0 actually implies that it is at time t equal to 0. So, this whole thing constitutes the Galerkin form. What I would like you to notice is that in this equation, h reflects the discretization in space. So, the space has already been discretized, we are already talking about a finite element mesh. Time, on the other hand, is still continuous, we have not discretized the time. So, I think a striking observation about the Galerkin form is that space is discretized, but time is continuous, and therefore, we also refer to this as the semi-discrete form. Unlike the steady state problem, where quantities were only function of x and not function of time. So, they were completely discrete. So, they were just the discrete form. On the other hand, here we have left the time to be continuous, and the space has been discretized. So, next we are going to write down the matrix form, and I can give you a preview that will actually lead to a set of ordinary differential equations. In the context of steady state Galerkin method, they led to a system of algebraic equations k d equal to f, whereas now this would lead to a system of ODEs.